Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm your host, Denisa Tova. And today I really truly have a very, very special guest. She is a highly experienced family law attorney, Karen McGuire with McGuire Condon, a law firm located on Long Island, New York. But let me tell you, beyond her impressive title, we will talk to Karen about her inspiring journey of resilience, family, community. She has navigated so much. She has navigated a unique path that has been both challenging and uplifting. So, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you inviting me. It means a lot. Thank
You have such a special place in my heart, and it's interesting. Like sometimes you go through your entire life and you meet people, and they make impressions, but once in a while, you meet someone. You may not know them all that well or for all that long, but you
you.
just you share a little bit about each other, and you just
Mhm,
know that there's just so much there. You've shared with me, Karen, that your journey to becoming
mhm,
an attorney really
mhm,
had a share of obstacles. Can you share
mhm,
how significant personal
mhm,
challenge during your bar exam,
mhm,
actually preparation, how that shaped your
mhm,
resilience?
mhm. Yeah, so I I was telling you that when I was preparing for the bar exam and I was sitting and the bar review professor or teacher had said that no matter what happens during your experience preparing for the bar, taking the bar, even if it's the death of someone in your family, you still have to you still have to persevere and you still have to go through. And I thought, wow, that's really tough. Like that's really tough. And lo and behold, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, um, like completely out of the blue in July, and the bar was at the end of the month. And I sat on the floor of Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital and studied for the bar. And he passed away 30 days later. I took the bar, um, failed the bar, but I took the bar, and it was 2 days out of, they told us he had 30 days to live. And I took 2 days out of those 30 days to study for the bar. And it was brutal, you know, in retrospect. Like, why did I do that? I missed that time. But I know in his heart, that's what he wanted me to do. So, in any event, that's how I kind of started. And I mean, obviously, I ultimately passed the bar, but that was rough. It was really rough. And then when he was moved to another hospital, sat on the floor of that hospital, literally every single day with books lined out on the floor, and trying as best I could to focus and and do what I needed to do to take the bar exam, and pass the bar exam. So that's how I started. Yeah,
Wow.
fun.
I have goosebumps. That's a tremendous resilience. Tremendous resilience. Wow.
You know,
And
I think
but
mm, it's I think of myself as just you literally putting one foot in front of the other. There's kind of no, that's just what you have to do, and you put blinder, or I do a lot of putting blinders on and um focusing at the task, on the task at hand, and doing, whether it's literally running this practice, going to court, focusing on a judge, dealing with my adversary, talking to my client, preparing for this, y- just blinders on and doing what needs to be done and channeling out all the noise, right? That's what we have to do,
yeah.
kind of, don't we? Channel out a lot of
Oh,
the
yeah.
noise because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. So that's the beginning of my
Life is
story.
that's exactly right, and it didn't stop there. life has thrown
Mhm.
more curveballs
Mhm.
your way. I mean, how
Yes.
how
Yes.
how did you
A lot,
how did you find
a lot.
footing again?
After that, um, well, I actually met my husband, and he was incredibly supportive, and so we have 4 daughters, um, 4 daughters who believe that only women were lawyers, like, they did not understand the concept of a male being a lawyer, right? Because that's I was a lawyer, my friends were lawyers, that's who was in the house, and so we made a decision, that he would stay home and raise the girls, and did that for about 12 years. So, kinda their imprint had a lot of him in them, male,
Mm.
um, just and they have a very interesting, look on life. They really look at life from both perspectives. Very, 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 very even keeled. Very, very down the middle, just very, very even keeled. And I also made a decision early on when my first daughter was born. Our first daughter was born, who is a lawyer, and our third daughter is a lawyer. Um, that I would not work on Wednesdays. And I was working for a firm in Smithtown, and I called him and I said, "Listen, I can do this work in 4 days. I don't have to do this in 5 days." We were living in Breezy Point, actually in one of the priest's house in the rectory. And I said, "We can do this. I can do this in 4 days. I don't have to do this in 5 days." And I want the same salary. You're not going to reduce my salary. So he said yes. So for literally um, 25 years, I took off Wednesdays. And so I was 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 2 days off. And it was a great, great way to manage my work life and my family life and be able to um, kind of schedule everything, or as best as I could, things for the girls on Wednesdays so I could be with them, and rarely missed they were very big into lacrosse. 3 of them played college lacrosse. Um, and make that, and we just made it work. And on Wednesdays, not a lot of people are off. So it was
Mm.
easy to do chores on Wednesdays, right? You do food shopping, you go to the
Yeah.
dry cleaner, you could do the that you needed to do. It wasn't a Friday. And I have shared that experience with a lot of young female lawyers and told them, listen, you can do it in 4 days. Tell your boss you can do it in 4 days, and take Wednesdays off. Don't take Fridays off. It's a 3-day weekend. You don't need that. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Um,
That's okay.
you can take Wednesdays off, and you can still manage your work and your family life and your personal life and your
Mhm.
social life, and do that. So, and no judge ever, ever, ever gave me a hard time. Ever, ever.
Wow.
They all knew, they still know. I still try to take Wednesdays off. And they'll say, oh, oh, that's right, Karen doesn't work on Wednesdays. And I would quickly remind them that raising 4 daughters and doing what I did was not taking off on Wednesdays. It was just a different, it was a different way of working. So yeah. And I
Y
started my practice in
Yeah.
1992, figured out that the amount of money that I was making doing what I was doing as an associate in the law firm, I only had to bill out a certain amount of hours, 10 hours or whatever. And I figured I can go and do this in on my own, and I can make as much money, if not more. And so 1992 forward, I was originally in practice with another female attorney who was an associate at the practice that I was in. She ended up teaching at one of the law schools, and so I was on my own for a little while. And then my partner, Patty Condon, Patty and I have been partners for 23 years. So it's a long time.
Wow.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've made it work. We've made it work. So yeah.
Wow.
That's at
You
least.
said something interesting. You
Mhm,
asked, and I think, I've interviewed, quite a few women attorneys, and they talked about their past, and, back then,
mhm,
one, I
mhm,
think, said that the
mhm,
lines were sort of between, man and a woman as far as practicing law. They were sort of, they were not, I guess, not as fluid, right? They were more defined. But I'm wondering, if many women sort of were held back by their
mhm,
belief and didn't even
mhm,
try, because there were few trailblazers like you who said, "This is the way it's going to be. I will not
mhm,
sacrifice the time with my children." So that is
mhm,
that is really truly amazing to hear. You have a very giving heart, and
mhm,
you and your husband, your late
mhm,
husband, had
mhm,
started a charity that holds a
mhm.
very special place in your heart. Can you tell me the
Yeah.
story behind that?
Sure. Yeah, so Kenny was really, really poor growing up, and, you talked about challenges, right, in my practice. One of them obviously was when Kenny got sick and, and passed away in 2019, and I can tell you that if it weren't for the camaraderie in Suffolk County and the judges and the law secretaries and the court officers and the lawyers and the clients, maybe not so much the clients, but the surrounding my family with love and support and understanding that we were in the ICU unit for 6 weeks every day, and no one, no judge, no law secretary, no one asked a question. Whatever we needed, they gave us. And they gave us our space, and they gave us our support, and they gave us our love. And I will be forever grateful to all of them. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. So, but I can tell you that I think that um, it was not only myself, but my daughter is also a lawyer. So they really knew my family, and they knew Kenny. Kenny used to bring bread to the to court, and he just
Oh,
he had a big personality, and he was an incredibly kind man. So he was very poor growing up. He had a brother who had spinal bifida. Who was in a wheelchair, and there were 5 siblings, no father. So they had there, and so we were really lucky. Our family was really lucky. We were very fortunate. I had my practice. We were secure financially. Our kids were healthy, and so I started working in the soup kitchen in Sayville. And Kenny then decided, he's gonna he's gonna one up me, and he's gonna come to the soup kitchen as well. Because what happened was he and his brother ended up being gourmet chefs because they could eat, and they could go to the restaurant and they could eat, and they had soda.
yeah.
Their favorite story is they used to put their soda, their cups under the soda machine, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So they learned how to cook at a very young age, and both Kenny and Brian were gourmet chefs. So Kenny came to Soup Kitchen, and Kenny would cook like these ridiculous meals for the homeless. And then probably 7, 8, 9 years after we were doing the Soup Kitchen, Kenny said, "You know what? Why don't we do a party at Christmas time for the homeless?" And we had a meeting in my living room, and that's how it kind of launched. Just got people from the soup kitchen, and we had no kitchen. We were they asked like 10 different restaurants if they could cook in their kitchens, because we had 200 people coming,
Wow.
and we served them prime rib, and I mean these crazy gourmet dinners. And so
Wow.
fast forward, we do is the homeless and sheltered kids come, we give them all um, personalized gifts. They get coats, they get well, now we have a candy store, we have photography, like a professional photographer came last year and took photographs of the families, and they dress to the nines when they come. And right before COVID hit, we had 700 people at the
Oh my goodness.
dinner. a lot. It was really a lot,
Terrific.
and,
Wow.
yeah, it
Wow.
was really special, and so and we did another event, which has now been taken over by NASA Suffolk, Coalition for the Homeless. We did what was called Backpack Pirates, and we took kids over on the ferry to Fire Island. We had pirates over there. They could swim, and we had a big barbecue, and at the end of the day, they had got off the ferry, and they had to sign contracts that they were going to listen to their teachers, and they were going to be good to their parents, and they were going to get good grades, and they were going to behave, and they were going to be kind. And then they got a backpack filled with their school supplies for them to start school. So, but that became a lot for us to do both of those events. So NASA Suffolk Coalition has taken it over, and now they give out 5,000 backpacks in the summer. It's big,
Really?
a lot. So yeah, and kindly, the Matrimonial Bar Association this summer did their golf event, and their donation was to our charity. So now we have $55,000 they raised for the charity, and I can do a second event, which I have to figure out what I'm going to do to, you know, spend the money for them. So it's great. It was unbelievable. And then somebody else today came in and said that the Knights of Columbus selected Every Child's Dream to donate their proceeds that they do next year to the charity. So it's really special. It's nice. And my whole
Yeah.
family's involved. So yeah, it's important. It's we have taught our kids, but for the grace of God, and your job is to give back in your lifetime. You better give back. That is your job. So, your husband was there.
That's
Your husband was at
yeah.
one of the events. Yep. He's a
Yeah.
huge supporter. I I am
Yes.
so grateful to him. Yep. Yeah. But thanks for
You
asking.
know, when this is so moving, and it does carry a special place in my heart too.
Mhm.
I think I shared with you, I came here from another country, and when I was a
Mhm.
teenager, all by
Yeah.
myself, went through, lots of stuff, and one of them was a brief period of homelessness. But what's really interesting is that I lived in a shelter, or I stayed in a shelter. I didn't live there. I was homeless and pregnant, but I was not unhappy. I didn't feel
Mhm.
unsafe. And I remember, they would let you out of the shelter every morning, and I would find solace in a library. That was my dream, is to go
Mhm.
to American University, which I many years later did. But I would come back, and the funny thing about the cooking, I would come back to the homeless shelter, and I would
Mhm.
actually cook like Eastern European meals, because I had to learn when I was
Oh,
like 10 years old to cook, and it was like
right.
potato pancakes, and I didn't, it didn't feel any different to me than, making that meal in somebody else's house. And so there's something about the food, and just
Oh,
so
yeah.
that is yeah,
Love
that is so
language.
wonderful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Love language.
Yeah, big
Yes,
love,
exactly,
sure.
and you passed it on to
That is
your children. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, you
I didn't
you
hear what you said.
passed on a
Yes.
great gift to your children, and also leaving sort of, keeping Kenny's legacy alive,
Mhm.
through this
Really,
charity. It's
really,
yeah,
yeah, really important,
yeah,
really important, really, really important. And it wasn't easy because COVID hit, right? The year after he
yeah,
passed away, COVID hit. So my head was kind of spinning. What am I going to do? And I would not do something for these kids. And so we and myself, and there are lots of lawyers that help out with this. Um, and we I I collected whatever I could, whatever donations I could, and we put together boxes, 200 boxes for homeless kids, and it was filled with coats and gifts, and I don't know, it was just a whole bunch of stuff, big, huge bankers boxes for each of the kids. So that's what we did for 2 years because we do our Christmas party at Sable High School, and they were closed down for 20 and
Mm.
21 of 20 and 21, and so we couldn't do it there. So last year was the first time we did it, after Kenny had passed away and after COVID. So our party is December 15th this year. Come.
I will, and I will promote it. I will actually post the link to the
Oh,
charity,
great.
and the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, below
Mhm.
definitely below the episode. I know
Thank
that
you.
you mentioned to me that being almost like being you're loyal to a fault, and I said,
Mhm.
what is your
Mhm.
pet peeve, right? And we
Mhm.
talked about, how do you navigate trust and loyalty, especially like
Yep.
in your profession?
Mm. So let's see. How do I navigate that? So it's really, really important to me, right? Being trustworthy and being loyal. Not loyal to me necessarily, but loyal to your word, loyal to
Yeah,
your values, your morals. And you learn. I mean, there are there are lots of landmines that we kind of step through in our practice, and like if I make a mistake, I know I know who I can trust, who's going to pick it up and say, that's probably not a good idea. Maybe you should think about this, or your numbers are off, or I will never
mm,
forget that. I will never forget. I'll also never forget if you didn't tell me that and you betrayed me, right? I mean, we make mistakes, and
of course.
y- I don't, I kind of think it's your job as a lawyer and a friend to point it out.
Yeah,
Clients come and go. I mean, you feel good about that because I just don't think I just don't like it. I don't like it.
yeah,
So, uh,
yeah.
so navigating it,
No, I yeah,
it's something that's learned with every person you come into contact with in this field, right? And from my perspective, you gain the trust and the loyalty of the judges and their law secretaries when, like, I despise being late. I don't like being late. I like being on time. I like being
yeah,
prepared. I don't like when other people are late. I think it's really disrespectful. I don't like having more than 2 cases on every day. If I have more than 2 cases, I'm like, I just don't like it because I don't feel like I'm doing justice to my clients. So, and I stagger
mm,
my cases. I try to do one at 9:15 and one at 11, so I don't hold people up because I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. Um, so I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does,
I
it
yield.
does. You
Yeah.
actually you mentioned something interesting is what we're talking about is how practitioners are treating each other, and that's, part of why I
Mhm,
started this podcast, so there is
mhm, mhm,
more kindness because you are a charitably minded person. You're teaching your daughters, how
mhm,
to give back, and so there's no
mhm,
reason why not take it out and to how you treat each other as practitioners. And so
mhm,
you're right.
mhm,
Somebody makes a mistake, instead of aha, I'll let you
mhm,
drown. How about, hey, you may want to be aware. Just treating each other with kindness. And there's
mhm,
so many life lessons, Karen, and what you mentioned today. And finally, what advice would you give to incoming
mhm.
attorneys?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Um, I also part of the what I was going to say before about, um, with helping other attorneys, I love talking I love when somebody asks me, "Can I pick your brain? Can I," that's so that 100%. call me. I will do whatever I can to help you, for sure. I mean, it's probably somewhat egotistical and selfish on my part why I do it, but it's also like I really do wanna see lawyers get better. I do. I really, really want that to happen, especially young female lawyers. So, what would I tell them? I would tell them, "Work really hard. Put your cell phone away. Don't have your cell phone on your desk. Just don't. It's not a, you know, just don't. Prepare always. Always know your case before you go anywhere. Be on time. Be respectful, and understand you're a newbie. You're a newbie, and there are older, wiser lawyers that are either in the courtroom or you are dealing with, and watch them and take cues from them and learn from them and introduce yourself and say, listen, there's nothing better than somebody saying, "Oh, that was a really nice argument that you made. Tell me that." And I'll tell you that. I think that young lawyers just can be humble, kind of, right? I was not
Yes.
humble when I first started. I was not humble. I was I was, one of a handful of women that started many years ago, and I was, you know, just, "You're not gonna tell me, I'm gonna tell you." But I learned. I learned. I learned. And, you know, listening is really important. Really important. Really important. Listen better than you talk.
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm,
I
mhm,
Look, I am really enjoying this, and the beautiful part of it is that, when I'm so curious, you're such a multi-layered person and been through so much, and there's so much to learn that if you are not listening, if you are preparing, if I'm sitting here and I'm
mhm,
preparing my questions and it's more
mhm,
important for me to think about, well, what will I sound like if I ask that? I'm really
mhm,
not taking in what you're saying. And so
mhm,
I love this. I know it would be better if we were actually physically in the same room, but this is
mhm.
okay. And I'm still just being pulled in what you're saying. I will have you back because we can talk life, and there's so much there. But thank you again for sharing your very powerful story with us today.
Thanks so much. I really, really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for thinking that what I have to say is something of importance, and that's really meaningful, right? It's really, really meaningful. Thank you. Thanks.
Absolutely. And for our listeners and our viewers to learn more about Karen McGuire and how to get a hold of her, click on her bio link in the description below. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast, and follow us on all social media channels with the links below. And until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.